Mr. Tomnick. Good. Well, thank you very much. Welcome everyone to our City Council meeting agenda for Monday, November 27th. It is now 5:30 p.m. and I will call the meeting to order. First off, with respect to our consent agenda, any items there that you would have removed? Not seeing a bunch of lights go on, but we do need a motion. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. No one's thought of anything else to come out? Very good. Please go ahead and vote. And that is approved unanimously. Thank you. With respect to the overall agenda, anyone? Councillor Dallas.
Motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Anything else? No? Very good. Not seeing any other lights on, so please go ahead and vote. And that is unanimously in favor as well. Thanks, everyone. So we can move right into presentations then. If I could ask that IT Manager Reid and Coordinator Shaw come up to the front. They're going to present to us this evening on the Urban Forest Management Registry project. So we'll give you a few moments to prepare yourselves, and when you're ready to go, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy and Council, for having us here tonight. We're excited to provide you with a presentation on the Urban Forest Management Registry. The urban forest is a piece of history that adds to the heritage and historic elements that the city of Lacombe is known for. Administration and community groups have had discussions on how to preserve and create a long-term plan to manage city trees. Over the last few years, city employees in parks and IT services have been collecting and analyzing the city trees using GIS tools. The DARP committee is a community group that has identified the urban forest as an asset in their 2021 capital project recommendations. The committee identified a tree asset management plan was needed to support and preserve the long-term life cycle of the downtown trees. With the adoption of the 2023-2026 strategic plan, council added a tree registry as a strategic item. Nicole Shaw, our GIS coordinator, has been with the city for just over 3 years. She has been working with city staff to develop the tree inventory as well as many other city projects. Nicole will take over from here and provide you a glimpse into the work that the team and her have been able to complete over the last few years.
Thank you, Manager Reid. I will now speak on the registry project in regards to the timeline, methods, and deliverables. To start with the project timeline, data collection at the registry started in August of 2022 by seasonal parks operator TJ Yarko. The beginning of November concluded the 2022 data collection with the final count of 1,390 trees. A progress update was presented to directors in the CAO late November. TJ was contracted as a GIS field tech to continue for the 2023 season, which started late March and concluded at the end of September with the final count of 5,602, there we go, trees inventoried, which equaled 8 months of field work. TJ's background as an ISA certified arborist, tree risk assessment qualified arborist, and certified landscape horticulturist technician has provided the city with a more clear and detailed understanding of our urban forest. Over the course of the 2 years, the registry was completed by using Geographic Information System, GIS-based tools. GIS is a computer system that analyzes and displays geographically referenced information from a variety of data sources to map. GIS is used in several industries such as environmental services, real estate, engineering, public safety, and digital storytelling. Such as the presentation you're seeing today is using an application called ArcGIS Story Maps that transforms GIS work into interactive content. For the registry, we use the data collection app called ArcGIS Field Maps that uses data-driven maps in mobile forms to help field workers perform data capturing, editing, and find asset information in the field. Supplementing ArcGIS Field Maps with the Trimble Catalyst GNSS, the DA2 receiver, as seen in the photo here, delivered a precise 60-centimeter high accuracy position for increased reliability while field collecting. Using ArcGIS Field Maps allow TJ to collect data by filling out what's called a smart mobile form, which you can see an example of off to the left. We base what attributes to collect for our registry using the ANSI A300 standard for tree care and the ISA's Best Management Practice Series Tree Inventory 2nd Edition. These two resources provided the best practice for the purpose of interpreting tree care standards and providing guidelines for arborists and tree workers. The attributes collected for the Urban Forest Registry were as followed: diameter, height, environment, health, history, rating, species common, and scientific name, and size and maturity. Our rating information will be used internally for the Parks Department for tree replacement, an essential piece for the tree asset management plan. To note, city-owned trees were the priority, which included downtown street trees, parks, boulevards, medians, and much more. Forested areas such as Granite Lake and Elizabeth Lake will need to be collected via top-down approach, such as LiDAR or satellite imagery analysis. Now, to start looking at the data that was captured over the course of the past 2 years, as mentioned previously, a total of 5,602 tree points were captured, which adds up to over 86 different types of tree species within the city. The top 3 most common tree species in the city of Lacombe are American elm at 776, Colorado blue spruce at 642, and Colorado spruce at 600. This slide is a closer view of 51st Avenue, which showcases one of the large American elm tree canopy roads over the latest imagery, which was taken on May 14th, 2023. We have created 2 GIS applications to take a more in-depth look at the Urban Forest Management Registry. The first is the Urban Forest Registry Interactive Map. Within this map, the public will have access to key attribute information collected during the inventory, along with some other functionality. To begin, we can zoom on the map and click on any tree point along the map here. Which, when we click on the tree point, it will open up a pop-up window showcasing some key attribute information in relation to the tree, which in this case, we have selected a pear tree. Another key resource within the map is the filter widget. By using the filter widget, we can filter for any tree species within the city. For example, if we select apple tree and turn on the filter, the map will highlight all the apple trees recorded in the city. When we zoom in, we can see 3 apple trees that are located to the west of the LMC. If we wanted to know the total amount of apple trees within the city, we can select on the tab button at the bottom of the screen. And on the bottom left, you can see we have a total number of 6 apple trees within the city. As long as the filter is on. Once we turn the filter off, the table will reset to showcase the total number of trees recorded within the city. The last functionality within the map is the Find Property Address search bar. The user can type in any address and the map will zoom them in on that location. For example, we can type in the address of City Hall. There we go. And the map will zoom in on that location. And then we can click on any tree points and see any attribute information there. Another GIS application that we have created is a dashboard. A dashboard presents the data in an interactive and intuitive data visualization. On the left, we have a table that showcases all the trees recorded from the registry and the number of each. At the top again, we can see we have 776 American elm trees within the city. On the bottom, we have a bar chart that shows the top 10 most common tree species within the city. And as we hover over, we can see the count of each. The table on the right showcases the parks and playgrounds in the city that have trees located within them and the number of trees within each park. In this table, we can pick a location such as the Big Dipper Park. And once we click on the map or on the park name, it will showcase the types and quantities of trees within the park on the left-hand table, and the map will zoom in on the location. So there we go. I picked the wrong one. There we go. Big Dipper Park. And then once we click off, the map will reset. So what's next? The Tree Asset Management Plan request for proposal was posted on November 2nd and will close tomorrow on November 28th. The RFP has received express interest primarily from landscape and arborist companies. We are looking forward to the future of our urban forest management within the city, and that concludes our presentation. Manager Reed and I are welcome to take any questions you may have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you both for that presentation. I was just curious with the last sentence there, with the majority of the respondents coming from landscape or arborist companies. I guess that begs the question for what purpose, or what was their interest in that information?
So arborists and landscaping companies, the RFP that was put out was to basically create a plan for the trees in the future and how we're going to deal with them. So those are the best companies to tell us when trees should be replaced, where we should be adding more trees, and so forth.
Thank you. Who's up first here? Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Chrissy. That was kind of my question. I was just trying to remember why it went to RFP when, because by the way, that's some terrific data. I mean, the fact that you can click on any city-owned tree and glean that all information, that's awesome. So now I'm thinking, well, why would it go to an RFP if we have all this information? Do we not have an arborist on staff who can now manage this, or is it too much for our own staff to manage and therefore an RFP for that?
Our staff would do the management of the actual tree program once it's developed, but right now it's very ad hoc. And so one of the things that we've already discovered actually using this data, can you go back to the map that shows where all the trees are briefly? Just zoom out. So you can see there on University Drive, there's no, or it jumped out at me when we looked at it, oh, there's no trees marked there. And we recognized that actually that's not in our management plan, even though there is significant amount of trees that went in with the upgrade of, at that time, Maple Drive. Mm-hmm. The city never made a plan to even maintain them. And so a third of them probably are broken off right now. And when we look at our downtown, we've been really struggling with how to replace those existing trees in the built environment and ever achieve anything like the canopy you have without spending $50, $60, or $100,000 a tree. So part of what we want to do is get a plan together that would say, well, of the trees that you have, if you want to maintain the urban canopy that you have today, you'll probably need to start planning for a replacement of 60 trees a year or 40 trees a year. Some of them should be elms. Here's how you should start staggering the elm replacements on those tree-lined streets. Maybe it shouldn't be continuous elms because there's a risk of monoculture diseases taking them out. So it's really more of saying, here's how you can approach tree management in a rational way, the same as you're approaching roads management. To maintain what you have today, here's what you have to do for the next 10 years. Here's the investment you have to make. And then city council can decide, yeah, actually, I want to make improvements beyond just maintaining, or actually, we can't afford that. So what can we afford? Sort of thing.
So just in order to minimize the amount of phone calls we're going to receive tomorrow, thinking that we're spending 50 or 60 or $100,000 per tree downtown, perhaps you could just elaborate briefly on some of the difficulties with replacing those substantial trees that we have in our downtown area. I know there's lots of items other than the cost of the tree that go into it, and just to avoid confusion, I think we should elaborate on that just a little.
Yeah, it is an issue that's faced by many municipalities, not just Lacombe. But as those trees reach maturity and end of life, when you go to replace them, and they have maybe a tree grate, twice the size of this table, the ability to grow that tree to the same height and condition that it's at today is just not there. And so you end up with significant infrastructure impact where you're peeling out concrete potentially and installing underground either cells or root ball systems that have self-watering systems involved just to get the tree to survive. We have been experimenting with some other replacement strategies, including augering out. They have lower survivability ratings when you go with these non-standard installations, but the reality is the $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 is not something the city can afford. That there's just no way, that's not a feasible thing. And so what we've seen in many other municipalities is actually a slow erosion of the downtown tree canopy, that it disappears over time and you get asphalt filled patches or empty tree grates. So rather than have that, we're looking at what's an option if we accept a higher level of a lower level of survivability. What are some lower cost options to maintain that tree canopy, and how can we do that over the next 10 or 20 years?
Very good. Appreciate that. Having this system in place, one of the things I like about it does show that these trees do have value. And I think that we've traveled around enough, especially during FCM at some of the larger centers where they face this on a much greater level. And far too often the trees are simply cut off, removed, and a stump sits there, and it's very unattractive, especially in the downtown area. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Councillor Connick asked the same question I was interested in, why we would be looking at outsourcing this at all. And you've answered that very well. Thank you. This is tremendous, by the way. Great job. I think it has huge value for us in the future. And I was just wondering about the location where the trees are, the memorial trees or birthplace forest or memorial trees. Would you be able to look and find that tree, for example, by name or whatever, if it's a memorial tree? If we have names on them, I don't.
In the dashboard, you can look in it could zoom you into the forest, and then from there you can kind of click on the points and you'd be like, this one's a cherry tree. Because there's, I think, quite a few different species of tree within this area. So.
Yes, I was thinking that in the future, I know some of those trees aren't marked the way you think they would be, but if we ever started putting plaques on the trees to designate a certain tree, whether they could look at this and find that tree. That's all.
So currently we don't label the birthplace trees for each children, just because if the tree does end up dying, it's not a great look. So the trees are replaced then. So right now that they're not labeled that way. So no, you would not be able to see them on here. We did not collect that as data currently.
Okay, thank you.
Coordinator Shaw, do you agree with the information the CEO gave us? Okay, just checking. And were you through with all the explanation of the dashboard and whatnot?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Anyone else? Thank you both. We appreciate it. No. Okay. Very good. Just so council's aware, Coordinator Bellabono told me that if you do click on the title of the Urban Forestry Management Registry, it'll take you immediately into that site video so you can go through it as well. Something you might not be aware of just yet. And Manager Mitchell, make your way up to the front, please. I understand you're going to be speaking this evening to us on the Pan Continental Curling Championship proposal. And whenever you're ready to go, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Creasy and members of council. Tonight, I am presenting on behalf of Darren Moulding, who could not be here in person. At the next council meeting, administration will return with a request for decision. Mr. Moulding will be unavailable at that time as well, as he will be out of the country. He is available tonight, though, via phone to answer any questions that you may have following the presentation.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say hi and thanks for presenting for me.
Perfect. All right, that was Mr. Moulding. So I'm sure you figured out. Tonight, we are presenting a proposal to bring the Pan Continental Curling Championships to the city of Lacombe for 2024. This aligns with Council's strategic plan, as it is a collaboration with community stakeholders on community economic development. The expected economic impact is as follows. They expect 360 people from the teams to attend and to spend a minimum of $175 per person over 11 days. This is a conservative estimate, and the estimate is that there'll be 350 participants in the 18 draws over that time. This brings an estimated total of $1,008,000 into the city. The event's expected revenue is as follows, amounting in $215,000 through grants, sponsorships, the banquet, and admissions. The expected expenses for the event are expected to be $162,500. You can see through facilities, transportation, hospitality, sponsorship, amenities, volunteers, etc. This brings us to, an estimated net profit of $42,500. Some additional benefits of having this event in Lacombe are, of course, national exposure, as it will be televised and it is Pan-Continental Championships. It sets our community up for future sports tourism opportunities. It builds future financial capacity for the Lacombe Curling Club, and of course, puts Lacombe on a world stage. The request for council will be an in-kind facility use of the front arena ice for the 2 weeks from October 27th to November 11th of 2024, and the LMC Centennial Hall rental on November 7th. As I mentioned, a request for decision will be presented to council at the next council meeting, but right now we are certainly open for any questions you may have.
Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Through to Darren. Darren, could you just enlighten us on, for example, the number of people that come with these teams? We did talk about this before, and like for the Philippines, for example, who knew they had a curling team, but they would be here, and how many people were in their delegation?
Yeah, so just to provide a background, there will be a minimum of 8 people per team. So that will be 4 main players plus an alternate, and then 3, I guess, team delegates. One would be a coach, and then one would be a manager, and then typically the other one is there for logistical reasons and just helping the team out. So I've coached in this event, and obviously, I don't know if you guys know my background, but I was a professional curler for a long time. And these teams can come like the Philippines with up to 30 people, family, friends. There's a lot of die-hard curling fans around the world. And I estimate that, based on some other events that we've had in Lacombe in 2014, the provincials, the men's, which I actually played in, and that the arena was packed the whole time. And also when we had the America's Challenge about 3 years back, it was just 3 teams, and we had over 300 people just in the curling club per draw. So I would expect, my thought is that we would be able to hopefully sell it out for the playoff games and have a nice few hundred fans at all the other draws. Does that answer your question, Don?
Yeah, thanks for that. Also, who televises this event?
Well, it's TSN that has been televising it, but it does go out for bids. So it's a strong chance that it'll be TSN, but if Sportsnet or one of the other networks wanted to really bid for it, they could. At this point, I would say it'd be a 95% chance of having TSN.
Okay, and what's the advantage for the city on that as far as the television? Now, some of the councillors haven't watched the curling. Can you, what would the city get out of that?
Yeah, so the real advantage, I've been able to negotiate terms with the World Curling Federation. And one of the terms that I was really excited about is that we're allowed to use any of our sponsors' logos, or there's no barrier on that. So obviously, if we can get the building in kind from you guys, we would be willing to put some large in-ice logos in all the sheets. And we can really promote, make sure that when the TV cameras are on and when we're being telecasted, that everyone knows what city we're having it in. And I also want to do some promotional stuff leading up to the event where we can let people know about our city. I've lived in Lacombe now, excuse me, for 7 years, and I love the city, and I just would like to showcase to the world just how great of a place it is. So it's just a platform to be able to do that off of. And we will also be streaming all the games that are in the curling club in the B, which is, there are some non-traditional curling countries in there. And I know we have communities in Alberta with many, let's say from India or Jamaica or Philippines. We do have those communities that I plan on reaching out to. And the Philippines did that in Kelowna and had the bleachers full, and they were really good fans. And from what I hear in Kelowna, they've actually picked a couple curlers out of there too. So it is great for promoting the city.
Thank you, Darren. So just want to make sure everybody understands what a well-known name you are in the curling world, and you're certainly appreciated here in our local curling club for your ice making expertise. I just wanted to thank you for your willingness to step up and coach and mentor young youth and get people into the sport as well. You're making some great strides there, and we appreciate the work that you do for our community.
That's
and by the way, your presentation today was great. You've never looked better.
I actually tried to get the video camera to work, and then I decided it might just be better this way. So, but I would really wish I could be there. I bought my son tickets for the Flames Golden Knights game tonight for his birthday before I knew about this meeting. And I couldn't break my 8-year-old's heart, so I just had to go. But I really appreciate you guys letting me be online here. And I've been putting a lot of work in to negotiate favorable terms for our town, which I believe I've been able to do. And once, if you guys vote to have this event, I can promise you that I'll put everything I've got into it, and we'll get to work right away, and we'll get a committee, and we'll get everything we need. And I know what it takes to host one of these events, and I've no doubt we'll be able to do it at the very highest level. So, and having a facility like the Gary Moe Sportsplex there, whether it's the curling club or the rink, it's a very fine facility, and it's perfect for this event. So I'd love to be able to showcase that.
That's great. The one thing that I missed on this presentation was the exact date that you're shooting for to have this event.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
It will be, so the exact date of the event, it'll be November 2nd to November 8th, or November 1st to November 8th. But the teams will be coming at least 3 days, maybe even a week before. And they'll be practicing and also getting, there's a lot of jet lag and that kind of thing. So a lot of those are their biggest event of the year. So a lot of them will be coming about a week early. So yeah, we're gonna, but the actual rink, so the event would run the 2nd to the 8th, but we would need the rink, I believe, the Monday. So I think that's the 28th. And then November 3rd, November 11th, I believe or November 10th is the Monday. That's when I think we could have everything out by.
Okay, and just so we're not mistaking on lead times and stuff whatnot, this was for 2024.
Yeah, this is next fall. It's a
Very good.
pretty short lead time. One of the reasons we were even able to get an opportunity to do this was I was in Kelowna coaching, and I've seen their events, and I knew our facility is perfect for it. And I went to the VP that I know pretty well of World Curling Federation, and I just said, you got to bring this event to Lacombe because I know we'll be able to show you how to do it properly. So he said to me, we talked for about an hour, and then he said, well, that's enough words. Let's take some action. So that was when I started talking about, bringing it to council and that kind of thing. So it's been about a month of work to get to this point, and we're going to have to really go hard to promote it after Christmas. But I think Lacombe usually responds favorably to curling events, so should be a pretty easy sell.
Well, you've always been a good ambassador for the sport, and we appreciate you putting Lacombe first. So thank you. I think Councillor Gullickson has another question for you.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Just a quick question, Darren, and let you go to the hockey game. Just can you mention how important this is to some of the teams that are playing on the B side, and how big this event is as far as World Curling goes?
Well, so in this event, sorry, on the B side, the winner of the B side gets to go to the A side, and in the A side, the top 5 teams get to go to the World Championships. So you've got on the B side, these are teams that most of them are self-funded, and they pretty much put their lives around this event. Like, this is the team that I coach from India. This is their main event of the year, and I've seen them basically devote their entire lives to it. And I know what it's like because I did it as a curler as well. So to all these B teams, it's basically their, if it's not their main thing in their life, it's up there. And everybody wants a chance to win an Olympic medal or go to the Worlds, and this is their chance of doing so. So it's a really big event. I would say on the World Curling Federation, it would be their it would be tied for their second biggest event. So the Worlds would be the biggest event, and then they have Pan-Continentals with it, which is Asia and North America and Australia and New Zealand as well, and then the Europeans. So we won't see any European teams because that is a different championship, but the top 5 teams from our championship and the top 7 teams from the Euros get to go to Worlds. So that's how they get their qualifiers for the Worlds. So the B it's very interesting. There will be Nigeria and Jamaica and Chinese Taipei and Hong Kong different countries, and they're very good curlers, and they're just trying to make their name in the sport, which is an Olympic sport. So there's a lot on the line.
Any other questions for Darren? Once again, we appreciate you taking time out of your special evening to be with us. Hope you and your son have a great evening.
Thank you, and I appreciate all the kind words. I'm very proud to be living in Lacombe, and I just love the support that you get daily from you guys. So thank you very much, and looking forward to hearing your decision.
Very good. Thanks again. Sherry, was there anything that you wanted to say in conclusion?
No, I think everything was covered fairly well. Thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
We appreciate the presentation. Thank you. You see Manager Hackett's making her way up to the front here. And as we move into section 6, requests for decision, we have before us item 6.1, bylaw 400.50, the land use bylaw amendment and redesignation of a parcel on 50th Avenue up for third reading. Manager Hackett, if you could take us through the item, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor Creasy, members of council. That was 2 hard acts to follow, so I will try and keep the bar high here. Presenting tonight for your consideration third reading of bylaw 400.50, which is a proposal to redesignate property at 5332 50th Avenue from the existing R1 zoning to R5 zoning. So the purpose of this bylaw, just to refresh council's memory, is to redesignate land legally described as the west half of Lot 31, Plan RN9, located, as I said, at 5332 50th Avenue, from the residential detached district to residential multi-unit dwelling district, R5. The property is shown here outlined in blue, located in downtown Lacombe. The R5 district is focused on multi-unit dwellings. The purpose is to provide an area for residential development primarily in the form of higher density. In this district, there are several permitted and discretionary uses. So some of the examples of permitted uses include apartment housing, which is what we understand the applicant is considering at this point. But it also has permitted uses of multi-attached housing, multiple housing development, or public utility building, for example. There's also several discretionary uses that once the parcel was zoned that would, of course, be an option to apply for as well, such as care residence, daycare facility, parking facility, or community culture recreation facility minor. The current land use designation, as I mentioned, is R1, and I did receive some feedback from folks who had questions or commented to me in the interim between the last time I was at the council table and today, that they felt it was important to note that it is a mixed zoned area, but there is lots of R1 in the area as well. And so I did want to make sure I presented that information tonight, that to the north, south, and west, the parcels are zoned R1, as this parcel is right now, although there is mixed zoning to the east. Public hearing was held on November 14th, and council at that time did approve second reading of this bylaw amendment. Following second reading, council passed a motion requesting administration to bring back information on the costs of and mechanisms for paving the alley at or near this site prior to consideration of third reading. So we do have that information tonight. This is the segment of lane that we're talking about, running from CNE Trail over to the east towards the LMC. The estimated cost, and this is a high-level estimate, is $300,000. There are 3 options for implementation of that paving. The first would be a local improvement tax, and these are detailed as well in the report, but just to summarize. The second would be payment from the roads reserve as a capital improvement project. And the third choice would be payment by the developer as a development permit condition at the time of issuing that permit. So the recommendation tonight is that council gives third reading to bylaw 400.50 as amended. Now, certainly, council may have substantive changes that they want to make tonight, and would be my recommendation then to defeat the bylaw and reinitiate the process if the changes are substantive, and start over with first reading to allow another public hearing. However, if council has changes that are not substantive, you certainly could make those adjustments tonight to the bylaw. Or if you need more information, just as happened last time, we could certainly table consideration of that tonight. However, the recommendation is to give third reading and that council directs administration to investigate a local improvement to pave the lane between 50th Avenue, running 51st Avenue to 53rd Street, and CNE Trail as per the local improvement tax policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Hackett. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Manager Hackett, what's the square footage of this lot? Just approximately.
Of the lot that's being
discussion.
designated? I don't know. Are we able to pull up the GIS, and we will get that information for you.
Very good. When that comes up, we will come back to you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I've got a number of comments, but I just first have a question about the map that you had, that they're all zoned R1, but where does the church fall in there with the transitional housing? Because that one wasn't showing that I understood.
Mayor Creasy, Councillor Hoekstra, it is still R1, but has a site exception for the transitional housing. So the base zoning is still R1 with an add to that parcel. So that would usually show up as a star or something. It didn't, of course, on that scale of map.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're
May I
welcome.
follow up?
Certainly.
So first of all, thank you to the neighbors, and this community is very active and very, very good communicators. I feel very strongly that this lot should be higher density than R1. But I would be open to hearing that it's an R4 rather than an R5. Just two apartment buildings right next to each other. Yeah, I just would be open to hearing that it would be an R4 for that. And did you want us to speak to both the paving and the bylaw, or just the first motion? Because I would just like to speak to say that I would support R4.
That is your prerogative to speak on one or both or whatever you'd like.
I do not support the local improvement tax for paving the back alley. That would, that all the residents would pave the back alley.
Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So I already outlined a lot of reasons last time, and I don't want to go through all those again. My vote will be the same as it was at last meeting. But I did want to address a few things that have sort of come up either during that last meeting or since. One of the conversations that I feel like some of my colleagues on council used to guide their vote last time was a talk about affordable housing. And I think it's important to sort of recognize that everybody's definition of that is different, but there's affordable housing, there's low-income housing, there's subsidized housing, there's regular housing, and we're making, I think, we're making a lot of assumptions as to what this development is. And so to think that you are going to support this because you support affordable housing, I think that that's a false assumption, and I think you got to be careful about basing your vote on that, because I don't think that's necessarily the case. We haven't been given that proposal by the developer. So I think saying that you are delivering affordable housing into your community by voting in favor of this R5, unfortunately is false. It may be true, but you don't know that for sure. And I think that that would be bad governance. It was mentioned that this had been a vacant lot for a amount of time, which is true. I'm not debating that. And that nobody necessarily wants to build large houses on these large lots. But I would also challenge that assumption. Some of the most recent builds on that stretch of road have been single-dwelling homes, large single-dwelling homes, but they've been large single-dwelling homes. This isn't about penalizing developers. Again, I just really want to reiterate that because I feel like my comments could be construed that way. Absolutely not. We need developers in this community. We need lots of different types of development in this community, but they have to be in the right place for the right people. And I think also I would just caution my colleagues on council that if you're feeling like you're not sure about this, or you think maybe this project would be okay if we put in a bunch of conditions, then your default should be no, that this is not the right way to go on this parcel. Rezoning is not appropriate in this case. As Councillor Hoekstra said, maybe R4 would be an okay density in this, and I totally agree with that. That's quite likely a more suitable use of this large lot, true, but at least in some cases, some uses of that property then would be discretionary. Doesn't mean that things couldn't happen there, but it now at least has to go to an extra step, has to go through the MPC process, it has another set of eyes, more ability for conditions to be put on. So when we're just talking about rezoning, this is making this parcel, allowed to have this use. I just really want to caution and challenge my colleagues on council to think about what it is they think that they're voting for in this case. Thank you.
Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. As we're sitting here, I can feel my heart pumping, and I think it's because this is an issue in which we receive plenty of feedback on and lots of consultation. I've had some conversations with people, and I am grateful for those, and they were all polite and respectful, and I'm very grateful for that. In regards to affordable housing, Councillor Hibbs is right. We don't know what this will be, but in essence, when you create housing, you actually do create affordable housing. So that's one thing that I believe on that. I have a lot here, and I don't know if anybody has the appetite to listen to it. But if you do, I'm willing to go through, and I too will likely not be changing my stance on this. In order to make sure I say what I want, I will be reading if that's acceptable. So thank you to administration for your patience and additional insight into this topic. This delay for third reading has allowed everyone to further evaluate and educate ourselves on this current topic, and hopefully for ones that may come forward in the future. First off, I want to start with the developer. This message is for the current developer, the ones that have come before, and the ones that will come after. Showing up is not enough. It is my expectation that you arrive prepared and ready to speak in favor of your plans, why this is good for the community, and how you intend to get there. Sure, the first piece is rezoning, but you better be ready to make good arguments for why this rezoning should be happening. It is not solely my responsibility or our other councillors to sell this to our community. This is your investment, and if you won't back it up, why should we? Next, there's a demand for this type of housing, and it will likely continue to increase in the future. Many young adults are postponing home purchases and need rentals as they delay for household formation or marriage. Renting is also increasingly appealing to older Canadians. People aged 55 and older routinely present the largest increase in renters following depressions as well, and this may be in our near future. Between 2000 and 2017, rentals increased 38% for people over 55 and 43% for people over 65. As baby boomers continue to reach retirement, many of them will likely consider higher density forms of development as a way to downsize and live comfortably. There is local service and infrastructure provision when apartments can be integrated into already urbanized areas that are equipped with basic infrastructure like utility lines, police, fire protection, shops, schools. Municipalities can frequently avoid the financial and environmental costs of stretching those services further out. Community benefits, from land preservation to energy use, smart growth development can help municipalities achieve a variety of important community goals. For example, compact communities with a variety of uses near each other generally increases the efficiency and equity of the local transportation system. When new apartments are well served by pedestrians, bicycles, and vehicles, residents will have more options and rely less on personal automobiles that may contribute to local congestion. Tax revenue and economic development, in addition to being associated with lower upfront infrastructure and ongoing service delivery costs, apartments generate higher tax than other types of housing. Municipalities may be able to capitalize on these benefits by incorporating apartments into mixed-use compact development in appropriate locations in their community. Multifamily residents travel less and own fewer cars than their single-family peers. New apartments generate less traffic congestion and parking demand than a comparable number of single-family units. Furthermore, the traffic impacts of new apartment residents can be significantly mitigated by locating new development in walkable neighborhoods. The people who live in multifamily housing are remarkably like their single-family neighbors. Although the income, education, and racial characteristics of apartment residents will vary by context, new apartments do not inherently attract residents who are less neighborly or socially engaged than their single-family peers. Apartment residents have the same goals as everyone when it comes to housing, residing in a safe, desirable, and affordable community. Planning for growth and prosperity requires honest conversations about the types of communities we should be building. So I will be in favor of this. And then just to back it up again, the Federal Conservative Party, Shadow Minister for Housing, is in support of zoning. The Liberal Cabinet Minister for the Federal Party is in favor of zoning appropriately when necessarily for these housing. The entire province of BC has put in legislation for zoning such as this to take place. So this is not just a one-off case. This is something that is national, and this is important, and we can stay on the right side of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Thompson, did you have an opportunity to get the bird's eye view or satellite view of that lot?
I did, and thanks for your patience. The square footage is 19,768 square feet.
And do you have the ability to bring that bird's eye view up on the screen for us?
One moment.
Okay. I'll let you work on that one, and then we will move to Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Thank you, Councillor Dallas, for your comments. I think they're very good to highlight the need for more housing of this nature, more, the whole debate about what's affordable and what's not is a tough one. I've thought this one over the weekend quite extensively. I've got the same feedback that many of you have gotten, phone calls. I guess I go back to why I'm here at the end of the day. I'm here to represent the citizens of this community, and the great many that I have heard are opposed to this. And so at the end of the day, I think I will be. I voted for, I will be voting against this now going forward. We want to do what's best for the community as a whole, and I get that. But at the end of the day, that's what I hearken back to. I wasn't in favor of the apartment at the other area because the feedback we received, and there are many good reasons as to why this should be zoned R5, but at the end of the day, I can't ignore the feedback that I've gotten. And as such, I'm going to change my vote. I do like the idea of maybe an R2 or an R4 there, perhaps. At the end of the day, I think an R4 will be met with some resistance as well, but as it stands today, I will not support it anymore.
Thank you. The reason I had you bring this up, I'm just curious. Like you, I had lots of input over the weekend, both in texts and phone calls and in person and whatnot. So, which was great to see the people of our city engaged. However, it is mostly people that are, actually it's all people that are extremely close by, which is, I'm not suggesting that's not important. However, I don't think that represents our community as a whole. In saying that, there was lots of good points brought up by many of them. One was the fact that the addition of an apartment building here is going to leave one particular house disadvantaged, and I just wanted to, before us visually here, I can't see the number on basically the white square building is the existing apartment building, 3 lots over from the Rexall, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
And then next to it is the vacant lot. And I'm curious, would the current setback for the proposed development be in line with the old photo there that shows the existing house, or further back more in line with the adjoining apartment? The reason I ask that is if it is back further where it's the existing apartment, it really doesn't have nearly the impact on the residents that's left supposedly sandwiched in between that and the adjacent church property. And that is important to me. There was lots of other arguments that were made for it as far as increasing traffic on the alley and the street and all this. And quite frankly, as much as I get it for people, that's kind of the reason why we build streets and alleys, is for the vehicles to use them. So I don't find that particularly or a particularly compelling argument. For me, the most important thing is whether or not this building will be made to fit into the neighborhood in a manner as outlined through the DARP documents, and have that heritage look that has been accomplished with the 2 larger homes that have been put in the last few years. That to me is far more important, the appearance of it to the street, above most all else. Were you able to ascertain that setback from 50th?
Yes, Mayor Creasy. Under the Downtown Area Redevelopment Plan guidelines, this property is in the Old Town Main Street District, and building setbacks under this district, front yards abutting the north side of 50th Avenue, so we're on the north side, are 12 meters. So I'm not sure what the existing apartment, how far that is back. If we still have the GIS open, we might be able to measure it. 18 meters. So the minimum would be 12, so it could be closer to the street.
So somewhere in between the two.
Would be the minimum. Of course,
Okay.
the developer can set it back more if he would like, or she would like.
Yeah, as a bare minimum, of course.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, that helps. As I said earlier, that's one of the difficult portions of this job, is having to represent all citizens of the community equally, and I find myself still leaning towards the redesignation in this particular case. Councillor Ross, I'm sorry to have skipped over you earlier. I thought your question was answered.
No,
go
I
ahead.
just have further comments before I had that information.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So we're here tonight trying to find a balance between viability of this very large lot, that's 19,000 square feet. You know, we have a developer that has a very strong, successful presence in our community that we want to keep doing business in our community, that's done an absolutely beautiful work throughout and successful developments have done. But I still support consistency. Somehow this lot has to be divided up so it's in the developer's business and as an investor that it's viable for this developer to make this lot turn out. But in terms of the alley and the discussion of the paving, to me, an alley is an alley. It's a back alley. It's not a street. We're not here to create another street and to spend $300,000 doing it. I guess I look at the success of the developers and the high-end couple projects. It's, you know, if you go to an R2, does it split the lot front and back to have 2 houses each side, or a duplex in the back and a house in the front? I'm not in favor of the apartment building on I just, like I said earlier, first, I want to stay consistent that location is location, and consistency for 50th Ave. There's some absolutely recently beautiful houses that are consistent with the bigger lots but yet I want to see this developer to succeed in this property as they have invested in it. It's not viable to spend that kind of money on this size of a lot for only an R1. So I won't be supporting an R5. I don't even know about an R4, but I guess my question to Manager Hackett, can you split it up so it's hypothetically a duplex in the back and a single family dwelling in the front?
There we go. Councillor Ross, it could be an application for subdivision could come in. It would require some relaxations given the width. So we did look into, because we had that question from the public as well, to subdivide the parcel into 2 R1 lots would require about a 0.5 meter relaxation on lot size for 2 single detached homes. To do like a semi-detached or duplex in the back with a single detached house as well would require rezoning to either R2 or R4. So we'd have to look at the design to see what setbacks would be required under multiple family development like that.
Thank you.
Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I just had just a little comment following Councillor Dallas's comments. I definitely appreciate the research that he's put into those comments. I think that they were very insightful. However, I have a passion for economics, and supply and demand is definitely something that I feel like I know a lot about. And I think that that's what Councillor Dallas was trying to get at by the addition of this to the inventory. It therefore drives the prices down, which then therefore makes it more affordable. But I would just caution that in the grand scheme of things, that will make a very negligible difference, if even measurable at all. And then I'd also remind everyone that when we're talking about affordable housing, again, we have no guarantees that's going to be the case here, but affordable housing, actually, you have to think about it. It's not what the base price is. Affordable housing is based on your income level. So affordable housing for everybody is different. It's 30% of your income. So again, it's just such a convoluted discussion. And if you're making this decision based on that alone, I just really caution that.
Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. So I wanted to speak to a few points because I was kind of simplified it when I just started off by saying I support R4. First of all, I don't see this neighborhood as being totally cohesive, even though maybe it's zoned somewhat that way. You do see a variety of housing in this area, and it's hard to see change, but I still support higher density. So I really appreciate Councillor Dallas's words on that regard. As for affordable housing actually is a continuum. It is, when I'm sitting on the Affordable Housing Committee and you look at our report, and a good community provides a whole variety of housing. So this is not necessarily something that's for low income. It is the housing that will be affordable to a certain type of people. If we only have R1s, that's not housing that's affordable to some. There are people, as Councillor Dallas said, that rental is the way that's what they can afford. They can maybe afford fairly high rent, but that's what they can afford. So I really feel strongly that this is the type of housing, higher density on this lot meets our desire as a community to have a variety of housing, and then particularly because it's walkable to downtown. So I think that part's really good. I commend Councillor Connick that you're here to represent citizens, but I also think they voted us in to be leaders, and we still have to look at the needs of the whole community or the province. And as Councillor Dallas said again too, we have ministers who are saying we do have to look at our zoning, and we can't stand in the way of creating higher density. So yes, we want to listen to citizens, but we also need to say, but we need to look at this bigger picture. And I have said that this weekend to a variety of people that it troubles me that there's that house sitting there by itself, but yet the needs of the community is higher density housing. So I would be voting for something like an R4.
Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Appreciate that. I also feel that this area being part of DARP makes it a little special compared to other areas, because in the past I have voted against zone changes. And in this case, I will be supporting a zone change of some kind. R5 might be over and above what I want to do. And mainly because of the lack of control in that area. I'd like to see us have a little bit more control over the what goes in there. Certainly, I believe that we need the housing in the downtown area. It's very important for us and our community as a whole. And I would be in favor of an R4 instead of an R5. And I'd like to see us have it, as the mayor said, with the aesthetic look to blend better with 50th Avenue than an apartment building would.
Thank you. Once again, I just wanted to speak to the integrity of this R1 district. And I find it a little ironic as I look down, especially the north side of the street, and see a commercial space, a drugstore in this instance, an apartment building, another church, a multifamily, or whatever the term is for the property next to it, and another church. And I believe there's a couple of home-based businesses there and whatnot. So I think to suggest that this is just an R1 area is a little oversimplified, to say the least. I'm not going to beat it to death, but once again, I do appreciate the input from many of the neighbors around that area. And hopefully at the end of the day, we can come up with a project that is suitable for our community. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Earlier today, I inquired about the differences specifically between R4 and R5. And the discussion was kind of inconclusive. And my apologies, but as I suggested a scenario like a duplex in the back and a family dwelling in the front, and we've had different comments towards R4. Could you be more specific towards hypothetically a scenario of a duplex in the back and a family dwelling in the front, or specifically how R4 varies to R5? And I think that might answer some people in the gallery, including, to be honest, myself, as wanting to be more specific upon R4 and R5.
Mayor Creasy, Councillor Ross, I'll do my best. So in the R4 district, the intent is more medium. So the permitted uses are medium density. However, under discretionary, multi-attached housing or multiple housing development, which kind of sounds like what you're describing with multiple forms of housing, is a discretionary use. And it's 31 to 55 units per hectare maximum. So we'd have to know how many hectares this parcel was, but that's kind of the range for multiple housing development in the R4. In the R5, the density is 80 dwelling units per hectare. So the R5 does allow more units. When we looked at this, we were looking at a 12 to 15 units. So certainly under the R4, it would be fewer units. But many of the setbacks, because of the DARP, are the same. The height of the building is going to be the same. The 2.5 stories is going to be the same. The architectural treatment is going to be the same. The front yard setback from 50th Avenue is going to be the same. So really and the parking was going to be the same. The landscaping requirements are going to be the same. So it really is going to come down to a few units of density. And that will depend on the design if a landowner did go forward with this. And I apologize, I would have to look at drawings to know exactly the range, if it was 12 to 15 or 8 to 10. Like I would have to have a little bit more detail to look at the drawings to know, to be any more specific than that. I hope that helps.
Certainly.
My apologies. Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So, sorry, getting back to farmer here, 42,500 square feet is an acre. So how many square feet is a hectare? Thank you.
100,000.
For the viewing public, I think we landed on 2.54.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you for that explanation, because when I went through them and compared them, I thought everything is the same. The building, a lot of the complaints were building height, building size, that kind of thing, setbacks, all that. It's identical for 4 and for 5. It is the overall number of dwelling units within that parcel. And for me, I'm not entirely sold that people are going to have a much different opinion of this property if there is 4 or 6 units or 8 or 12, 10 units. That's a pretty fine line. I think there's other factors that are at play here that are more important. So yeah, I just want everybody to make sure they appreciate that the vast majority of those parameters are identical for either of those designations. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I guess I kind of keep hearing this similar thing of what we would like to see in regards to the zoning, and I'm not sure there's many other places where we can go and tell someone how to spend their money and how to operate their business and make money. And so in my opinion, I have no interest in weighing of what this should look like and what the developer should do, because that's not my business. That's their business, and I think that's for them to decide whether or not that's worth it to them, and they have come forward with something that they felt was worth it to them. So in my mind, it's either we're saying yes to R5 or no to R5, not making suggestions on what we would like to see there. And then my other concern was that a lot of people brought up what this development could look like. And as far as I'm aware, we had mechanisms in place as council that we could change what this development would look like through the DARP agreement and through these expectations for these developments. And so if we weren't satisfied with those, we should be making changes to that as well. And so that's what I would recommend going forward if people have these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. I do not believe that we have a motion on the floor as yet. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you. I will make the motion that council gives third reading to bylaw 400.50. Oh, I apologize. Actually don't know what the amendment is here, so it's
you had it correct, just as amended.
okay.
But whether council wants to deal with the lane issue, is that Director Thompson? No, okay.
Okay, and so the lane issue is included as amended. It is not its own separate decision.
That's correct.
I would recommend looking at them as 2 separate.
Thank you.
motions.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay. So would I still include the amended word in there? Okay, thank you. Motion that council gives third reading to bylaw 400.50 as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Dallas. CEO Gowdy.
I would like to ask Manager Hackett to explain the amendments that are reflected in third reading as per the resolution that Councillor Dallas has just put forward.
Yes, CAO Gowdy, what the as amended covers. Yes, so when council gave bylaw 400.50 first reading, the actual bylaw referred to the wrong figure number in the land use bylaw. So between first reading and second reading, we had to update the figure in the bylaw. So that is the as amended part. It is not to do with any changes to the actual zoning. It's to reflect the correct figure number in the land use bylaw. Thank you.
Very good. Does anyone have any other comments or questions? Very good. Please go ahead and vote then. With respect to third reading of bylaw 4.50, that is defeated by a margin of 5-2. Councillor Dallas and Mayor Creasy voting for. Manager Hackett, I think you might as well stay in place, actually. The patio policy and requested amendments for it. We could take up next, item 6.2, please.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I just have a verbal presentation on this item. The purpose of the presentation is to present an updated policy 61-256 01 2023 ADP in response to direction from Council at the September 11th meeting. So this policy is the on-street patio policy, which was originally approved by Council in 2020 as a Council policy to allow and regulate outdoor seasonal outdoor patios on the street and sidewalk. It was updated in 2022 to address operational improvements and to allow consideration of bistro sets to be placed on the sidewalk as an option for businesses in Lacombe as well. In September 2023, it was presented to Council as part of the Data Integrity Project. And at that time, Council requested that administration bring it back with the removal of any reference to boardwalks and to include a mechanism for public feedback for all applications, even reapplications. Because the policy right now, the license to occupy on the street is for a 3-year time period. And so at the end of 3 years, businesses do need to reapply. And so the direction was that there should be feedback from surrounding owners at that time of reapplying. The policy before you tonight contains those changes made through several edits described in the report on the agenda. And it is recommended that Council endorse the updated on-street patio and bistro sets administrative policy as presented, and that Council rescind the existing on-street patio policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, questions or concerns? Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I very much appreciate that you incorporated some of the concerns that I had with this policy. There's probably others as well, but just the ones that I thought were really important. So I'll be prepared to go ahead and make that motion that Council endorse the updated on-street patio and bistro sets administrative policy. I won't read all the numbers as presented.
Thank you. Not seeing a lot of other lights on here. No questions or comments? Please go ahead and vote. That is unanimously in favor. And if we could have Senior Manager McKinnon get ready to go for our next item. In the meantime, we're just going to take a short,
We still need to, we have to rescind that.
I was being prompted out elsewhere, so we'll go back to, are batteries going to make it?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. And because we've passed that, then I would move that council rescind the old on-street policy from 2022.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Please go ahead and vote. That is unanimously in favor as well. And as said earlier, the Senior Manager McKinnon will give you a few moments to get ready. For the next item, we're going to take a short break here and give staff an opportunity to correct some technical difficulties that we have with our voting machines. So, thank you. Everyone, I think we have our audio units back up and running. Appreciate that quick changeover. We'll get back to the item before us, which is 6.3, our Q3 financial report. Senior Manager McKinnon, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Creasy and Council. Tonight, I'm here to present the Q3 variance report for 2023. The timeline of the report is from January to September 30th, 2023. Overall, revenues are $636,000 higher, or 1.5% higher than budget for the third quarter. Goods and services revenues have exceeded the budget by $768,000, which represents, on average, 6.76%. The Lagoon Water Storage Agreement variable component has resulted in unbudgeted revenue in excess of $500,000 to date. Administration fees are $120,000 over budget because of a renegotiated contract with the Regional Water Commission. The user fee variance is also because of Eco Energy, Water and Wastewater, and Aquatics Department revenue that is offsetting expenses. Security service revenue is under budget by $104,000. Interest and penalties are $421,000 higher than the year-to-date budget, with higher interest rates and higher penalties contributing. Other sources of revenue are $132,000 respective higher than budget, with sponsorships, vehicle sales, and other unbudgeted revenue lines. Permits, fines, and licenses have a year-to-date budget shortfall of $76,000, attributed to business licenses and police fines. Overall expenses are $871,000, or 2.4% under budget. Debt and banking charges are under budget by approximately $100,000 because of timing differences of servicing costs for the Public Works debenture. Provincial school requisitions are under budget by $203,000 because of timing differences. And goods and services are currently 7.12, or $338,000 under budget. This category, goods and services, is comprised of many expenses, including travel, subsistence, training and conferences, general materials and supplies, just to name a few. Goods and services account for 12% of the city's overall expenses. The under budget reporting for most departments in Q3 report is primarily because of timing differences. The city's overall financial standing at the close of third quarter of 2023 is a favorable position with a year-to-date surplus of $1.5 million. Administration projects a 2023 surplus of over $900,000, largely because of the unbudgeted variable revenue from the Lagoon Water Storage and the increased Regional Water Commission administration fees. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you for that. Always a pleasure to hear a little more money come in than what we had expected. I guess I just wanted to briefly just touch on the idea of the revenues. So the $636K over is primarily the $500,000 from the unbudgeted Lagoon Water Storage Agreement and the $120,000 additional revenue from the contract for the Regional Water Services Commission. Is that correct?
That's true. There's some other variable changes, but those are the ones that will be expected to carry forward right to year end.
And certainly the bulk of that figure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Very
yes.
good. So I guess I just don't want it to make it sound like this is, I don't know, $500,000 is $500,000. And when it says unbudgeted revenue, I think members of the public could construe this as to some sort of not being prepared by our administration or something, because we have no really say or input over in what the overall usage of that facility will be, and therefore the income that will be generated. It may be unbudgeted, but it's not like it's totally unexpected. And I think that the public needs to know that that money is still being used prudently, the vast majority of which I believe has moved into, help me out here.
Capital reserve.
Into reserves, thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. It's awesome that we're in a favorable position, but we'd just like to make the motion that council accepts the Q3 2023 financial report as information.
Thank you. No one else? Please go ahead and vote. I expect to see a fair bit of green on this one. And that is unanimously in favor. Thank you. I don't believe that we've overlooked any public business. I'll just go through our next meetings. All are in council chambers here at 5:30 p.m. And they are on Monday, December 11th, the regular council meeting. Monday, January 8th, the new year. It says 2023 here, that is to be 2024. And that is a regular council meeting. And then followed by another regular council meeting on January 22nd, 2024. So those watching at home can add those to their things to watch hit list on those dates. And I believe that that takes care of our business up to the in-camera items. Councillor Connick.
Motion to move in camera.
Thank you. Record will reflect the motion to move in camera. It was at 7:03. Please go ahead and vote.